Do you fantasize about guns? I know I do. Today, I'm going to show you some fantasy guns. Okay, these are fantasy guns, and actually these I'm going to use as comparisons because they are the real thing. And the first one is this CZ27 with a silencer. Now, before you say, wait a minute, Tom, these do exist. These do exist. However, and maybe this is correct, somebody out there might want to write and give me more information, but these guns do actually exist. It's just that I don't believe they ever came on an early high-polished CZ27. Here's an example of the guns I usually see. Now, we've sold 3 or 4 of them. All were late war phosphate or dull finish. And I've seen them online before. I looked on the different forums. Again, these are very desirable. This is an attachment adapter. This is Waffen-proofed, by the way, Eagle N Waffen-proofed. And this barrel, the rifling, is undisturbed, meaning it goes all the way through. I'm not sure exactly how this is attached, but it's all one piece, is basically. It's an adapter on here, and the rifling comes through, and it all looks like one smooth bore and not something added on later. So what's important about this is the barrel. That's the piece that's unusual, and this barrel is Eagle N proofed. So I just believe that this should be on a late war gun, and it does have value because it's a real it's a real CZ27 high polished finish, and there you can see it does have a Waffen stamp. It was issued to the Army. Not sure why the Army would be issued with a silencer. I could see it going to the police, Gestapo, SS, people like that, but this is a very rare gun. I believe this is a fantasy piece because this barrel, I don't believe belongs on this early CZ. Of course, I could be wrong, in which case it would be worth a whole lot more. We are going to be offering this for sale, and I'm sure it'll be snapped up very quickly because it is a rare find. But with the silencer adapter, it could be a fantasy piece. Now, you can buy reproduction silencers. If you get in touch with us, we can send you the link of where you can buy them. We don't sell them, but I know a guy who does. I know a guy is the important thing here. Fantasy piece, I believe, high polish, but with a cool silencer adapter. Next is a Krieghoff, and this is a fantasy piece because it's a 1939. Now this, I believe, is a legit Krieghoff toggle. It's not that hard to swap out the toggle, and I wanted to show you, like, I have had several of these. I just throw them in a box when I get them. That's a real Krieghoff toggle, and somebody could take this and put it on a Mauser. You take this, put it on a Mauser. 1939, there's a 1939 Mauser. That's the code, back here, the 42, that's the code for Mauser. This is the date, but you can see it's clearly a different date. So this was not taken from a Mauser. This is likely a real Krieghoff toggle, but here's the point that I needed to get to. It took a long time to get there. They never made a 1939 Krieghoff. They made 1938, which is actually kind of a rare date, and they made 1940s, but they never made a 1939. At least none have ever been discovered that were real. There is one other 1939 that was reported to me. The serial number I just put in below because I can't remember it off the top of my head. So this serial number is also a 1939 fantasy piece. This one is 9991. Now, the font on this is too large, in my opinion, and the 1939, the 9 looks smaller. Well, you can see the 3 comes down a little bit lower, the 1 comes down a little bit lower. It's poorly done, is the bottom line. So probably a real Krieghoff toggle. 1939 was added. This frame, by the way, is a Mauser frame. I've talked about this before, but right here there's like a little circular motion where the Dremel went in, made a little circular motion and then went down. That's unique to Mauser, so that's a Mauser frame. Here is a real Krieghoff. So first let's start with the Krieghoff toggle. That seems all fine. Let's take a look at the stock lug. There's no circular motion there. Our little circle at the top, you can see the difference, I think. it's slightly different. And then the front, when we look at the front grip strap, it has like a teardrop. That's you see on Krieghoffs and DWMs. Mauser tends to have a half moon. So this is a Mauser frame. This is a Krieghoff frame. The font, let's look at the differences. This is Krieghoff font for the serial number. This is somebody made up. The font is a little too big. Same way with the font in the front. You can see here, the font's a little bit smaller. Now this 1943 is actually a pretty rare date. They actually stopped making them in 1942. According to Mr. Krieghoff, he said, we stopped making them in 42, but we still had plenty of parts and we put them together. And then they made 43, 44, and most people believe they made some 45. So again, 43, 44, 45. Probably the parts were all made in 42, but then they were put together later. We can take a look at the Krieghoff stamps. You can see them very clearly here. That's what the Krieghoff proof stamp looks like. This one on the fantasy piece, they're just a lot more sloppy. It doesn't help that they put the white wax in there. They do that, I think, to cover up some of the flaws. But here you can just see it's not well done. You just see the different quality here and here, here and here. And then, of course, the serial number at the top and the one on the bottom. So a 43 Krieghoff with a Black Widow magazine. This is a rare find. This one has honest wear. You can see it's kind of a brown patina, and I will be offering this for sale, so somebody will probably grab it. Front strap and back strap are almost gray in color. This looks a lot better, but it's been refinished. And again, 1939, they did not make a Krieghoff in 1939. So this is a fantasy piece. This is the real thing, and real cool. Now, I would fantasize about this one, not this one. Okay, now I'm going to show you, these three are fantasy pieces. The one aspect here that we'll talk about is party leader grip, white. As far as I know, they never made a white party leader grip, and I'm sure this is a reproduction post-war. These are being made in Europe, very high quality, but didn't make them in that color. And same way with the bottom, magazine bottom. They did make white ones for special presentations. I believe this is a reproduction, but it matches well. So there's a fantasy piece where somebody has a white party leader grip on a PPK. This one is, they did make them in this brown color. This is very well done. This is actually real. That's a real bottom from pre-war era. The mag itself is real. This is all good. This is a fantasy piece, and the engraving is a fantasy piece. So here we have a white party leader grip, a brown party leader grip, and finally a black party leader grip. All of the diamonds are sharp, so when you feel them, they're not worn at all, haven't been handled, they seem brand new. We've already talked about party leaders before. If you're going to buy one, be very careful because the fakes are beautiful. And you can make a mistake. The people who make these will disclose that these are obviously reproductions. They sell them as reproductions, but that doesn't stop somebody from then buying it and putting it on a gun and selling it at a gun show or sending it off to auction. So you just have to be very careful in buying party leaders. Now, let's talk about the engraving. This fantasy piece, the engraving isn't really, it wouldn't fool anybody. Here, by the way, is a factory engraved gun, has the nice reddish grips, but this style is oak leaf and acorn. Now, most of the engraved German guns, oak leaf and acorn was their favorite motif, if that's the right word. You can see the oak leaves, very detailed. In fact, this one is done a lot better. We can see the one at the top. If you look at the leaves, they actually have the main stem in the middle, but then all the little stems on the leaf. Whereas this one will have like the main stem, but no detail beyond that. So it's just slightly different. The best way for me to know what is factory engraved and what is not factory engraved is from the serial number, because the factory engraved guns tend to come in blocks where you'd have maybe 20 or 30 of them in a block, all engraved. When I see one in my database where there's only one, there's no other one in that same block, then often I could say, well, it's possible it was a special order, but it's more likely it was not factory done. This is not factory done. There's a couple other tells. You can see how the serial number is like squared off. Here, it's different in the way they do the serial number. Also, the way they would always engrave around the eagle end or the crown end marking. You can see the proof mark very well. Here, the proof mark is gone, and they wouldn't have done that. They wouldn't cover it up because by law they had to have the two proofs. They left this one intact, but not this one. Sometimes the ejection port is engraved. This one's not. This one is not. But that would be only the most ornate guns, like gold engraved guns. You'll see this being engraved, but they would never cover over the proof mark. The other thing they never would cover over is the Walther banner with the logo. This one is really well done. You can see the edges, though. In fact, when I rub my glove, it catches the cloth. It's still shiny, which means this isn't even patinaed. It's been recently engraved, so you can still see the shine of the bare metal. So it's not going to fool anyone. This one is even more crude. This is a floral pattern, which the Germans did use a floral pattern, but not very often. And you can see they engraved over the logo, they engraved over the legend. So that's not going to fool anybody either. In this one, they engraved over the proof mark, but not in here. Front straps, let's take a look at that. That front strap, by the way, the workmanship on this one is phenomenal. This one, not so much. This one, you can just see how good that looks compared to the real one. I mean, it's definitely a different pattern, but the quality is very good. So in terms of a fantasy piece, why do these have value? They're really cool. Most of the people that look at guns, if I have guns in my, I don't have guns in my living room, by the way, but if I had guns in my living room or in my man cave and somebody came over and they wanted to see some of it, they would look at this and say, wow, look at this. This is really cool. And you could say, well, this is really not a factory piece, but it's wonderful workmanship, as I would call it, a fantasy piece. Both of these engraved, pretty good, excellent engraving, and then all original. I didn't say much about this, but this is a late war because it's 429,000. The last ones made were 431,000. It does have proof marks, but this has no finish, probably end of war. Never received a finish, although some of the parts are blued, obviously, put together with an unfinished gun, and then somebody put a black party leader on it. It just makes for a nice display piece. Again, a fantasy gun. Well, there you have it. Watch and learn. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel and forward this information to somebody who cares.